one of the things that prompted this interview was a comment that you made that as an editor, you've noticed that men submit far more often than women. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yes, and this is something that virtually every editor has noticed. If anything, it's slightly more pronounced with Star Line, or has been in the past, than with Mobius, which surprises me and has always surprised me, because the membership of SFPA has been pretty evenly, has had an even ratio of men to women ever since its founding, and was in fact founded by a woman, Suzette Hayden Elgin. When Vida started putting out stuff about gender ratios in publishing a number of years ago, I was kind of concerned, because it had just never crossed my mind to pay attention to the genders of who was submitting or who was being accepted. And I looked at Mobius and found out that consistently it was twice as many men as women submitting.
Oh, wow.
At least going by name. We're talking email.
It's hard with names, right? Yeah.
I haven't met, but by name, gender, it was twice as many men as women. And I was quite pleased to find out that I was accepting them in the same ratio. I do not.
When you say accepting them in the same ratio, are you saying you were accepting twice as many men as women?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I feel that the quality is pretty much identical. I'm not seeing that women's work is better, or that men's work is better. I'm seeing wonderful work from both genders. I think it's very important to not police gender as an editor. I know that some people feel differently. For one thing, I think people who write good work should be rewarded with publication. Hopefully with money as well as publication. That's also. With regard to frequency of submission, I've never minded getting frequent submissions from good poets. The problem is that sometimes I get submissions from very bad poets who think that they can kind of browbeat me into acceptance by firing off one submission after the next until I finally cave and take one, and that's not quite how it works. So I don't want my suggestions for less frequent submissions to apply to those whose work I've accepted, who I'm always happy to see more of.
What do you think is causing that? What do you think causes women to not submit? Is it?
I am not sure. There are certainly women who are tenacious and ambitious and will keep on submitting. I can think of a couple of people, I'm not going to mention names, who submitted over and over and over to Star Line, whose work when they began submitting was simply not that good. In the case, one of these people was female and one was male. In the case of the male person, he was submitting so frequently and his work was so bad that I became actively squashy.
Squashy.
In an effort to reduce the volume of unsuitable submissions.
Right.
And he ignored me and kept on sending. And finally, after what seemed like hundreds of submissions, one of them was rather good and I took it. And then many, many more submissions went by, and then there was another good one. And then there's another good one that appeared a little more quickly, and this guy just kept at it, and his writing gradually got better and better, and I began accepting his work more and more often. And it was the same thing with the woman who was submitting, where the work was initially just not quite good enough, but not horrible, not unsuitable. So I sent a nice rejection letter saying, do submit again. And she kept on submitting, and gradually the work got better and better and better and better and better until I was accepting almost everything she was sending.
Crap. You're like, oh my God, you can't really see it.
The editor needs your work. The editor can't function without submissions. This is something that I think people should keep in mind, is that they have a product and it has value. Mm-hmm. Even if the editor isn't paying them anything and just needs it to occupy space, mm-hmm. their product still has value. Mm-hmm. What's annoying is getting stuff from people who haven't read the guidelines at all. I have a few different flavors of rejection. The only one that's kind of rude and said, read the journal to get a better idea of what we publish, means you didn't send something in that was even remotely related to what we're trying to do here. What the hell is the matter with you?
So what I hear you saying is, just submit. You're not putting out an editor, that so long as you're not submitting so frequently, and so long as you're actually submitting something that's relevant to the publication.
Submitting several times a day is a problem, but that only happens with people who are really, really around the bend. Those are going to get very obnoxious rejections indeed. But everybody else is going to get, if it says please submit again or do send more, go for it. Mm-hmm. Also keep in mind that different publications have different flavors of standard rejections anyway. Right. A place that's getting upwards of 40,000 submissions a year may have boilerplate that is substantially more discouraging, mm-hmm. just to stem the tide to a manageable level. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if you're good, they want to see your stuff. Even for the places that get many, many thousands of poems, you want to tell yourself that 90% of what they get is crud, that your stuff isn't crud, so you don't really have that much competition, and why not give it a shot? And you'll never know what an editor may like. I've seen this happen not just with poetry, but in art. Most of the time, almost all of us can agree that the stuff that's published is pretty damn good. But every now and then there will be that piece where you can't possibly have liked that. Did they blackmail you or what?
Right.
I tell people there's no such thing as unpublishable. There's no such thing as being not good enough to get published. If you keep sending your stuff out, even with no improvement whatsoever, you will eventually find an editor that really likes it. It's just that with certain types of work, it's going to take you a lot longer.